Welcome to the lecture of Python for Data Science. In this particular video, we will see some of the topics from unit number 5, that is the data wrangling. So in this particular video, we will cover the topics such as working with the deterministic selection, considering timing and performance. In that we have the subtopic like the timeit function, that is benchmarking with timeit. And we will also see one topic from the unit number 4 that is remaining, that is the geographical data, that is the base map toolkit. So in this particular video, we are covering this few topics. So starting with the deterministic selection. So what is the deterministic selection and how it is working? So we have already seen the concept in the TF-IDF. So in the TF-IDF, what we are doing, at last we are getting the output in terms of the matrix. So we have some word and we have its position, that is the position in terms of coordinates. So that coordinates and the position, that particular one is called as the sparse matrix. So what is sparse matrix? Let's see that. So consider the following vector. So I have the list, in that I have the values as 0 and 1. So I will call it as the vector. So in this I have only two values, that is the 0 and 1. And I want only the positions where my 1 is present. So for that the sparse matrix is used. So for using this particular sparse matrix, we are making use of the scipy library. So we are writing from scipy.sparse import CSC underscore matrix. So this particular function is very useful in getting the coordinates, that is the position where 1 is present. So what I'm doing, I'm calling this function, that is CSC underscore matrix, and as an argument, I am passing this complete vector. So whatever this vector is, that same vector I am passing over here. And I'm printing the values. Then let's see what is the output. So this is my output. So what this output shows, that this particular output shows that where my 1 is present, and this coordinates show its position. So how many ones are there in my vector? So you can count 1, 2, 3, 4. Total 4 ones are there, and in the output you can see that total 4 different ones are there over here. So this shows the position. The first position is 0, 0 and the second position is 0, 5. So my first position is over here, that is 0, 0 and is 0, 5. It means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and this one is 5. So my second one is present as 0, 5. So this coordinates gives me the position where my 1 is present. So 0 means the row. In my vector I have only one row. So it is the coordinate, the x-axis of the coordinate is 0 for everything, and the y-axis shows me the column number, like that. So if I have, we have seen in the TF-IDF that if we have the three different documents, then for the first document I have index position as 0, for the second as 1, and for the third as 2. So over here I have only one row, so I have the index position 0 for the x coordinate. So the data representation is in coordinates and the cell value. Now, if your document is too large, then at that time this CSC underscore matrix function is very slow. So if you want to do the processing faster, then you can make use of the hashing vectorizer function. So this particular hashing vectorizer function is present in the sklearn library. So for that, what I'm doing, I'm importing the sklearn feature, that is my sklearn library. So I'm writing from sklearn.feature underscore extraction.text. I'm importing the hashing vectorizer function. So I'm writing hashing vectorizer, and I'm passing all the values. So what is in the output? The output shows where my 1 is present and its position. So you can see over here that your document is very large. The last coordinate is 918, where your 1 is present. So this particular hashing vectorizer is comparatively faster than the previous function. So this all are the topic, that is the working with deterministic selection is the part of the hashing trick. Now let's see, considering the timing and performance. So we have to see the benchmarking with timeit. So timeit is one of the function which is used in Python to get the time, that is the processing time of your Python code. So this is very important to know that this particular timeit function is useful for only the small code snippets. It means for the small code only this timeit function is useful. What it will return? It will return you the processing time in seconds. Suppose I have one for loop and I'm executing that particular for loop 10,000 times. Then after running that particular cell in Python, after what second my output is displayed in my output cell. So that is called as the processing time. So when I press the run button and the gap between when I press the run button and I'm getting the output, so that processing time, how many seconds it is taking, so that seconds is written by this particular timeit function. So it has four different parameters, that is the statement, setup, timer and number. So what is statement? Whatever code you want to measure the execution time, so that you have to pass in the statement. The setup means before the statement, before whatever code you want to execute, if you want a particular line to execute before the statement runs, at that time you can make use of the setup. So what is this setup? It is always executed before statement, that is this particular first parameter. So default value is pass. So in the unit number 1 we have already seen in the Python basics that what is pass. Pass means we want to do nothing, just pass the control. So for that the pass is used. So by default value of this setup is pass, and the statement is also pass. The third parameter is timer. So this will have the timer value, that is the timeit already has a default value set and we can ignore it. The number, the statement will execute as per the number which is given over here, and the default value is 1 million. So suppose I want to execute the for loop 10,000 times, then I can write the number as 10,000. If I am not writing that particular 10,000 as a number, then by default that particular for loop will run 1 million time, and the execution time of that particular for loop which runs 1 million time, so that execution time, that processing time will be returned by timeit function. So let's see its Python code. So this is my notebook file, and in this you can visualize that I'm importing the required module, that is import timeit, and what I'm writing, that is the code snippet to be executed only once. It means my setup. So I am writing my setup as my variable, and I am writing one statement, that is from math import sqrt. So I'm writing in this string like this. Now the code snippet whose execution time is to be measured. So this is my code, and I am writing in the triple quotes. So I am writing in the triple quotes. It means this particular user defined function will be taken as it is. So this is my definition, that is user defined function. Define example, my list. I have the for loop in it, and what I am doing, I am measuring the square root, that is sqrtx. Now I want to make use of the timeit function. So I am writing timeit, my setup, that is setup equals to my setup. It means the code which I want to execute only once, that is I am writing in the setup equals to my setup. So this my setup will be taken from here. So I want to execute this particular statement only once. So that statement is importing the required library, that is from math I am importing square root function. So it will be executed only once. After setup, after the setup line has executed, my next code will be executed, that is my statement. So statement, I am writing statement equals to my code. So this my code will be taken from here. So I want the processing time of this particular my code, so I am writing it in my statement. So this user defined function will be taken, and how many times I want to run? I want to run 10,000 times. That is, I want to run this particular code 10,000 times. So my for loop will be taken accordingly. So when I run this particular code, then you can see that my output is 0.09115 seconds. It means when I run this particular cell, Then what is the processing time of this particular cell? The processing time of this particular cell is 0.02 seconds. So what is the processing time? How long it takes? So it is written in terms of second by this timeit function. Again, this particular function is very useful for the small code snippet only. For the large code, this timeit function is not useful. Now let's see one remaining topic from the unit number 4, that is plotting the geographical data. So in that we have the subtopics like using an environment in notebook, getting the base map toolkit, dealing with the deprecated library issues, and using the base map to plot the geographic data. So we will see first of all that what is dealing with the deprecated library issue is. So one of the major advantage of working with Python is the huge number of packages that it supports. So the Python supports very huge amount of packages, whether it is of machine learning or whether it is of basic Python or whether it is for the web development. So unfortunately, not every package receives updates quickly enough to avoid using the deprecated features in other packages. So a deprecated feature is one that still exists in the target package, but the developers of that package plan to remove it in an upcoming update. So consequently, you receive a deprecated package warning when you run your code. So the libraries which is available in Python are developed by the different developers. So what we are having that they are updating the libraries after few time. So whatever libraries they stopped updating, so that library which has stopped the update, so that library we will call it as the deprecated library. So suppose I have the library as sklearn, then the updated version of the sklearn is also available. So the library will be updated automatically, or you can install it the updated version. But the some of the libraries are there whose update has stopped, as we have seen that in the operating system in the Windows 7, the Windows 7 has stopped their updates. So it is old operating system like that. There are some old libraries which is not used nowadays, so it is available to use, but its update has stopped. So that library are called as the deprecated library. So it has some issues with it. So it will show you some warnings when you run such type of library in Python. So to ignore that warning, you can write the code like this, that is import warnings, warnings dot filter warnings ignore. It means when you are using the deprecated library, it will show you some warning. So if you do not want to see that warning, then you can ignore the warnings by importing warnings like this. So let's see the geographical data notebook. So this is my geographical data notebook. What I have to do over here, that I want to plot such type of geographical data in my Jupyter notebook. So for that, I have to make use of the deprecated library, that is my base map toolkit library. So this is the deprecated library, and to use this particular library, you have to create the environment, and that process is very long. So what we are doing over here, we are just understanding the code, that how it is working, because it is the deprecated library. No updates are available for this base map toolkit. So in the near future, this library is not used for plotting the geographical data. So let's understand this code. So we are importing the MATLAB library, Matplot library, NumPy library, and I'm importing this basemap library from the basemap toolkits like this. And as this is the deprecated library, so to ignore the warnings, I'm writing, that is import warnings. I'm ignoring the warnings, that is I'm filtering the warnings. Now I want to plot such type of geographical data, that is the world map is available in the Python code. So which portion of the world map I want to see? So for that I have to pass some arguments, that is the coordinates, various coordinates, that is x and y coordinates. So which part from the world map I want to visualize. So let's start with that. That is, the first parameter is the longitude and the second parameter is the latitude. So I want to visualize this different five area in my map. That is the Austin, Hawaii, Washington, Chicago, and the Los Angeles. So the first parameter shows the longitude and the second parameter shows the latitude. So how I am writing this longitude and the latitude, that you can Google it, that what are the coordinates for the Austin, Chicago, and like that. So you will find its longitude and latitude numbers. So that numbers are passed over here. Now to draw a map, we are using the base map function, and we have in it the different projection. So this is my base map function. You can visualize over here in my projection. So it defines the basic map appearance. So I want this particular appearance, that is MERC. It is one type in the appearance. And I have the different arguments. So the first argument is the LLCR NR LAT. It means the latitude of the lower left hand corner of the desired map. So I'm passing it 10. So it will give me the latitude of the lower left hand corner. Uh, this particular one, that is CRN, it means the upper right hand corner. So CRN stands for the corner and LAT stands for the latitude. So over here you can see LAT at the end, it means the latitude. LLCRN, it means the lower left hand corner, and the U stands for the upper, R stands for the right, and CRN stands for the corner. So like this it has the short forms. Now it is LLRCRN. LL stands for the lower left, CRN stands for the corner, and LON stands for the longitude. So it will give me the longitude. Then my short form is U means upper, R means right, CRN means corner, and LON means it will give me the longitude, that is degrees I am passing. So that is the 10 degrees, 50 degrees, minus 160 degree, and the minus 60 degree. So I am writing this particular coordinates, all the coordinates, and I am storing in my object called M, and I am writing M dot draw coastlines. Then what I am doing, I am writing M dot fill continents. So I want the continents with the color as the light gray and the lake color as the light blue. So in the output you can see that this is my continent. Continent means my land portion. So my land portion I want as the light gray, so it is as the light gray, and whatever in between the lakes are there, that I want as the light blue, so it is shown as the light blue. Then I have drawn the parallels and the meridians in my map, and I have also shown the boundary. So you can see such type of a vertical and the horizontal line and my boundaries in my map. So you can see in the continent that you can see the land portion which ends and then the ocean portion starts. In between you have the black line, so that is the boundaries. So in the base map, using the base map toolkit, you can also draw the boundaries of the different countries also. So this is just the continent. If there are some different countries present over here, then you can draw the country boundaries also. Then I am writing draw map boundary and fill color with the aqua. So you can see that my this particular area shows the aqua color. Then what I am doing for plotting the graph, I am writing m dot plot, that is x comma y. So this x comma y will be taken from here, that is m, and in my zip function I am writing all this different parameters, that is 5 parameters that I have mentioned over here, that 5 parameters I am passing over here. So where these parameters are, that are some coordinates, that is x comma y coordinate. So I want that particular coordinate highlighted as my circle, which is of red color, and the size is 6. So it means it will show me some bigger values. So you can see over here that my different points are shown, that you can count 1 2 3 4 and 5. 5 different points are shown with the red mark. So what is it? It is this 5 coordinates in my map. So the project title is projection, and for plotting the graph I am writing plt.show. So this is how the geographical data is plotted using the basemap toolkit. Again I am repeating, this basemap toolkit is a deprecated library, so it has lots of issues with it. So to use this basemap, you have to create an virtual environment, and after creating that, that is very long process, then you can make use of this basemap library. So I'm directly showing you the output, that how the geographical map is plotted. Books that you can refer for this particular subject, that is the Python for data science, the technical publication. It is very short book and easy book, you can refer it uh, for the exam purpose also, and this is your reference book. So taking consideration the reference book, they have created this particular book, so you can make use of this book, it is nice. So keeping it till here, thank you for watching.